And I'm truly excited for this conversation, mainly because we each all have different experiences in this industry. And I would say that on my end, I identify more with millennials and I'm in the cusp of a Gen Z millennial, where I was raised by millennials, but also in the corporate world raised by millennials too. So I identify more on that side. But I'm really excited for this conversation because I think a lot of young people today are really struggling with this idea of like what the workforce looks like, or what does it mean to get your first full-time job or transition into a full-time job that is based in sustainability or in climate or in science or policy or creativity. And why don't we actually kind of go around each and every one of you to briefly introduce yourself and maybe to really talk about the kind of work that you're doing in your respective space today.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Natalie Neptune. I'm a top linked voice and the founder of GenZtea, which is a community for founders, creators, investors with a focus on having Gen Z just not in the room, but at the table. So, kind of when I grew up, I knew I wanted to become a doctor or whatever. So, I actually was a civil engineering major and I did a concentration in environmental and did a lot of research as a project drawdown scholar throughout my years. And then now, fast forward, and now I'm a content creator and I host events for top founders and creators and investors, which includes deep tech investors, also to deep tech founders too. So that's a little bit what I do. And fast forward today, your life can change dramatically.
Hi, I'm Maya. I use she, her pronouns. I started in this space 7 years ago. I love to volunteer, so I would volunteer around my high school for causes I cared about, the first being ocean conservation. And that led me into doing a lot of grassroots organizing work, and that eventually led to digital organizing. So I got my first big girl job at Intersection Environmentalist. I led the digital team there. And then for like most recently, I led the digital team for Feminist, which is a nonprofit that centers women, girls, and non-gender expansive people. And so that's a little bit of the work that I've been doing and done. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is in terms of how I got into this space, honestly, it was because I cold DM'd someone. When I was 18, I was really inspired by this young Asian woman named Nadia Okamoto. She's a period equity activist. I really wanted, I was really inspired by her. And so I learned how to code. I built her a website and I cold DM'd it to her. And I was like, hey, I think you need this website to showcase all of your incredible work. And she ended up responding to me. She was like, oh, I absolutely love the work that you put into this site. I'm going to get it live. And also, do you want to be my executive assistant? So she hired me on the spot for that role. I had never been an EA, and I spent the next year with her, and she really taught me how to get my foot in the door in the social impact space, and it's all led to the work that I still do today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Megan. I'm the founder of the Urban Garden Initiative. I'm currently a researcher at Stanford, doing a lot of work in kind of the urban design and urban greening space. But my story really started, I've been working in climate for the past decade. At 15, I grew up in the East Coast, right outside of a really major food desert, right outside of Wilmington, Delaware, and was doing a lot of urban gardening work there and realized that there was this really huge discrepancy of young people not being in a lot of these spaces while there's a lot of incredible urban ag happening. And so I was really inspired at the time to start this organization that was rooted really locally in my community to bring a lot of young people together and to teach them about food systems and to teach them about other ways they can engage with their community and their environment. And then from there, the journey has kind of continued to grow. I did my undergrad in urban studies and architecture. And so I've been working with a lot of really incredible organizations like the UN and World Economic Forum to think about how we can continue to bring these conversations more to a global scale, and really excited to chat more about it with you guys today.
Yeah, I mean, I really love each and every one of your stories just because I feel like it wasn't like linear. It was just kind of like you were curious about something or you were like, this is my pathway right now, but then it changed. And I think that when you're younger, right, you have this idea of like, let's go to the 4-year college. I'm going to study this major. I'm going to be in this field. And then something happens or there's hurdles and challenges that begin to kind of formulate throughout undergrad, but also even in post-grad life. And I would say that even in my younger years, I'm now in the older era, I remember my ages from 18 to 23 were probably one of the most hardest times of my life because I didn't know who I really was or what I really wanted to do. And I feel like, recent graduates today, even from the last 4 years, 5, 3, 2, 1 years, like are having these like obstacles in this industry. And from your perspective, like what are some of those things that you've seen personally yourself, or even have talked to friends about the struggles they go through in this industry to find themselves an established career, or even find like a mentor, or even to learn these non-traditional skills that are not being taught in universities or even your jobs?
Yeah, well, I like to always say your network is your net worth. I grew up, wanted to be a doctor, as I said, studied civil engineering, did a lot of environmental research. And for me, I didn't have like the family connections or whatever to get my first job or first internship. So really, I relied on my guidance counselor. I was super close with her in actually college, and she just happened to be in my major. She was a professor in the civil engineering, environmental engineering department, and I wasn't. I say a top student. I was like a B minus average student, sometimes got C's, but she really recognized my drive. So I was able to do research under her. So I went to Penn State, and Penn State has a program called Project Drawdown. So that's how I was able to get my first research experience. As I said, I wanted to become a doctor, and it's really important to do research if you want to do the MD, PhD route. So that's really answered the question of how I got my first job and work experience was actually having a really great counselor, building those relationships, always scheduling calls to always meet her in the office, and going into like my first internship. I actually got it working at a UC Berkeley startup, so remotely during college. I became a super user of a app. I drove the most amount of downloads, so they hired me as their top intern. Their first external intern, I say, because they were all UC Berkeley students. So as someone that came from, non-target university, and I went to a Commonwealth campus, so it was Penn State Harrisburg. It wasn't even the top campus. It was really cool that some students, top students, were willing to bet on me. So that goes into how I got my first internship and my first research experience without an existing network.
I can jump in next for this one. I think too often as young people, we're often told to like funnel in really, really early into one set career area or like one area of interest and like define all of your different skills in that one area. But like if you're anything kind of like me, like you're curious about a lot of different spaces, and I don't necessarily feel like I only want to spend all of my energy into one space. And so a lot of my journey, I think, started in food systems, then went into sustainable fashion, then went into conservation and ecology. Now I was doing a lot of urban design work, and I've seen the intricacies and kind of interconnectedness of all of these different spaces together. I've been able to take a lot of my ag work, and then as I work for brands like Coachtopia or Tapestry or other sustainable fashion brands, I'm able to tell them about circularity and bring them knowledge about working with farmers on the ground. And now as I do urban design, I'm able to bring all of those pieces into thinking about how we're creating more equitable green spaces. And so as young people, like don't limit yourself to only one space. Like let all of your different experiences and curiosities lead you down a lot of different paths and see where that journey takes you. And I think a lot of my coolest opportunities consulting for different brands have really come from the kind of diverse background that I've built up.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely echo what they're saying. I think I would add, in terms of like my career path, I mean, I always knew I wanted to be in marketing. And I think the unique advantage of a role like that is because of social media, you really have so many opportunities to create like your own opportunities. So for me, like I said, I've been in maybe 5 different roles and I've only applied to one of them. Like the others, they wanted me, like they hired me, or like I showed them specific value and then I got my foot in that way. So I would say honestly, like be like that is honestly, I think that any role is open, which sounds silly, but like for me, the most recent job I took, for instance, I fell in love with that company. I did all this time researching them and analyzing their socials. And then I just reached out to them and I told them I think they could change these things. And then they were like, if you think you can do it better, like we'll give you a contract opportunity to do it better. And I did. And then that ended up landing me a full-time role where a few months later they were like, we love this work. Will you join our team full-time? And so I would say like, oh, thank you. So I would say, if you can, if you're in an industry that allows it, like marketing, like try to create those opportunities for yourself. Like follow those passions and be specific and strategic about like what you think you offer that's unique and they are not doing well. So for me, it's like I know I'm really good at community engagement and community growth. And I noticed that this company didn't understand how to do that. And so for me, I was like, this is an amazing opportunity, an amazing fit for me to showcase that I can do it for them. So I would just say create your own opportunities when you have capacity and if you're in a role that allows you to do so.
Love that because each and every one of you are saying like, this is my unique experience of how I got here. And I think like, like Natalie, like you were saying, being one of the top download person that drives the most downloads for the startup app, like I think that's how I got my first job out of college. It's like I met someone on Instagram, then they invited me to this event, and I met the founder, and then the founder, I emailed him like 4 times until he finally responded, then gave me an internship because I was so very sharp with him. And then from there, I got to actually become like a manager in that company, and then I eventually left. And I would say too, like Maya, you were saying, like my second job out of college, I got it through Instagram because the boss followed me on Instagram. She's like, I like your account. So again, like there's a lot of things that you all can do while you're kind of doing this and trying to transition to a job. But let's talk about this idea that climate, green, environmental jobs are often low paying. Like a lot of people pursue degrees in engineering, finance, banking, because it's like, this is where you're going to have financial stability. And sometimes people demonize environmental careers. And a lot of young people feel like, how are you supposed to navigate the state of the economy, state of housing, food, medication, and try to also work in a career that's aligned to your values? What have you found the best ways in either entering the industry or even accepting of finding something that's tangential or something that you're like, it's not exactly what I want to do? How would you tell young people today of like how to explore their options in those roles?
Yeah, I guess I can kick it off. I mean, Gen Z, we're a lot different than a lot of the other generations. I like to say the use of having multiple sources of income is actually very common to Gen Z. We're kind of in the gig economy now. And, by like 2030, pretty much almost like half of the workforce will actually be freelancers and consultants. So I like to say you can have that full-time job, even if you don't like it, it may pay a little bit less, but you can also be like the panels here. You can be a content creator. You can monetize that by working with different brands. You can also be like set aside some of your income, maybe to be an angel investor and maybe a female founder that you loved. Maybe she was focusing on something environmental solution that you really felt a tie in. You wanted to have a stake in that. So I'd like to say you can have like your full-time job, you can do content, you can also do contracts and work with clients on the side, especially if you're a founder. So I think it's really finding a job that allows you to do that if that's something that's very important for you, to have multiple sources of income. So yeah, you have that job. Like all my friends, like, oh, they work at maybe Microsoft, but they have a company, but they're also a big content creator. So they have these multiple sources of income flowing in besides just that one full-time job. So that's why I definitely encourage people, as you're seeing the increase of the gig economy, 9 to 5 jobs, especially you see early talent jobs are actually kind of decreasing. So in order to mitigate like risk, I definitely suggest people to be building up. If you don't like content creating, maybe there's so many other ways you can use AI like Claude or ChatGPT, put in your bio and figure out ways to diversify your income. So that's why I always suggest people, because your 9 to 5, you can get fired like in an instant, but it's good to have something that you own, whether it's a newsletter. Like for me, I host like events, so like I own that. So that's why I definitely suggest for people.
I have a lot of thoughts about this question because I think too often we kind of separate this idea of like, if you want to do a career that's very values aligned, that has to be really low paying, and otherwise you have to, this idea of selling your soul to like corporate companies. I'm coming from the Bay Area, it's like a conversation that we have a lot. And I think what I found in this movement, right, is there's a lot of interconnectedness between if you want to do, whether it's engineering or consulting or finance. Like, I have a friend who's doing sustainable investment banking at a really large company, right? Or like is doing consulting for Fortune 500 companies to bring there and think about ESG. So there's a lot of those types of careers that you can do. But also, I want us to think about, like, I feel like I've been in some of those spaces before, and I really want to work a job where every day I'm excited to go to work. I like want to be making the impact that I want to, and like see myself being able to make in the job that I'm doing. And so I think continuing to find and like going to events like this where you get to meet people that are doing careers that maybe you didn't even know existed before, I think is one of the coolest ways that I've gone about it, where it's not only those 5 industries. There's a lot of different careers that you can really do yourself. And I want to leave you guys with a book that I've been reading recently called Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. It's a really awesome book. I'm like halfway through it right now, but it thinks a lot about the intersection of these two spaces. It's written by a GSB professor, but that cares a lot and deeply about climate. And so if you guys want to check that out, I would also recommend.
That's awesome. For me, like, I always wanted a green job, but I was very narrow-minded in being like, I will never be an engineer probably, so I don't have a green job. But I think the great thing is that everybody has unique skills and perspectives. And for me, that came through communication. So people nowadays call it like a climate communicator. I had never heard of that before. I'm not even sure if that's what I would call myself, but the reality is I get to do something I love and use the skills that are unique to me. So I think, you don't have to have like the pressure of, oh, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not in the green space. Like, I think any skills you have could be a green job. And you should think really deeply about what your passions, but also like what your actual skills are, like what you're good at doing, what you like doing. And at the start, that could just look like volunteering. Like maybe you're in a job that you don't like and you one day want to fully make it your full time. But realistically, like it's not going to be that jump. And so you'll start volunteering for a nonprofit or something else. That's what I did. I volunteered for a lot of nonprofits for free. And thankfully, I did that when I was at 15, 18, for many years when I was younger. So also, if you have younger siblings, tell them to get into the volunteering early. Like, it'll help you so much to like do that free work then versus now.
That's so true. Yeah, volunteering really does matter, and it helps to create a better society for everyone to treat each other with respect and dignity. I really love this discussion just because I think we kind of touch upon key components of like, not everyone's journey is going to look the same. Your journey is going to look different than mine, but also the fact that no one really has always the trajectories that they wanted. Things can change. Our lives are very fluid. And I think a lot of the times young people put this much pressure on themselves because I think when you're in college, everyone's stressed out. Everyone's asking by senior year, what job are you going? You're going to grad school. Do you have an internship lined up? And you're just like, I don't know. I'm just trying to party this weekend. Like, those are the conversations that I think a lot of young people, unfortunately, like my generation puts out on your younger generation of like all this pressure that they should have their lives together. When I know a lot of people in their 30s and 40s that don't have their lives together. And that's okay. We're not perfect. We are someone that is constantly trying to better ourselves, to find mentorship, to find career resources. And I really love that, digital media, it really plays a huge role. Even if you don't want to be a content creator, that's where you find and connect with people, find events, find resources, find workshops that actually get you trained into these industries. So now that I think that we are running slightly late, I do want to open up for at least 1 or 2 questions. Otherwise, I do have another question to ask. So if anyone has one question for our fabulous speakers, please feel free to raise your hand. It could be about anything that you want.
I'm coming from like a marketing and communications background, and I'm currently looking for a green job right now. What job board or like what advice would you give?
Well, Green Jobs Board is a great place. So that's definitely one. Intersectional Environmentalist, if you go on their website, they have a database of grassroots climate orgs based, and it's organized by state. So that's a resource you could use. Honestly, I think if you find climate activists like Isaias and Christy, literally just look at their network. Like, look at the companies they've worked with. All of those like nonprofits. There's Lonely Will. There's IE. There's, you could name it a million. So I would say, yeah, you can be strategic about how you use social media to do your research for these climate orgs. And you can divide it by space. Like, I think that's important too. Like, what where you want to fit into the climate landscape. Like, is there climate justice org? Is it a conservation org? And then is it like forestry or is it ocean? Like, the more you can niche down that interest, I think that will help you as well. Because if it's ocean, then it's like lonely whale, parley, like that's a space. And then like climate justice, IE, and is a different space. So, and yeah, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can like DM me, and I've made so many lists of climate orgs I'm happy to send you to. Yeah.
And I'll just add quickly to that question as well, that for anyone else who's looking for media jobs or otherwise, like I just founded another new org, which would be happy to tell you guys more after this conversation. But founders are always looking for like new people to join their companies. And so if you want to work more in the startup space, there's a lot of really incredible early stage startups. We're always looking to kind of hire our initial core team. And so reach out and like find us on LinkedIn and like see what projects people are doing. There's a lot of like databases where you can see like startups that have raised recently or like companies that have raised. So it's a great idea to just like DM the people who started a lot of those companies and also see what conversations you can get started.
And I just add like 2 points I always give people is like number one, is actually what I did was actually I volunteered for a bigger influencer. So I volunteered for, it was like Megan Voice. She was like my role model. And that's when I wanted to break into VC because I wanted to be in climate tech investor. So I just aligned myself. Of course, she wasn't focused on just climate. And literally that's how I got my internship. So I worked for a Norwegian fintech company only because I was volunteering to her, and it built that trust because they're like, they don't know who I am, but they know who she is, and they were willing to trust me. That was number one. Number two, how to stand out is actually IRL's the future. AI will be able to place like a lot of things, I like to say, but IRL is something you're seeing. I bet you've seen a lot of brands are converting their budget to experimental marketing, field marketing. So I always tell people, actually start hosting events. That's how a lot of my friends got their jobs. I encourage them to host events. For example, one of my friends, she's now a founding director at the AI Collective, all because she started hosting policy events in DC. So those are like 2 different ways. I definitely encourage people volunteering for an influencer and then also hosting like your own events.
Yes, I love all those responses. And I would just add to it, like, look up youth climate conferences. They usually have scholarships for young people. This event at the Nest is a three-day summit. We offer so much free we have free LinkedIn headshots actually over there. So all you young people that are always saying that they're scared to take images, we have a photographer, and usually these shoots cost like $500, $600 for those headshots. So get them free. And we also have really great organizations here in different states and regions that are hiring actually. So make sure to actually check them out too. But also just really build mentorship, build a friendship. I think one of the biggest issues I had when I was younger is that I was so intimidated to talk to someone who was 10 years, 20 years older than me or a senior role in an industry, all because I thought that they wouldn't care about me. But actually, there's so many adults that are willing to build an actual mentorship with you and also learn from you. And just remember that it's not just about telling them, hey, be my mentor. It's actually build an authentic relationship. It's like how you build a friendship. You don't ask them when you meet them, can you be my friend? You say like, hey, like, let's actually get to know our values. So thank you so much again, everyone. Please give a round of applause to our amazing audience members.